Welcome to the February 8th, 2023, 6:15 p.m. open session meeting of the Ayer Affordable Housing Trust. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, OML, public bodies otherwise governed by the OML are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom meeting ID 818-0509-7403 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Alicia Hersey at ahersey@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 142. Prior to the meeting. Thank you. So, first on our agenda, at this point, so that everybody knows, Cindy will not be joining us. She's still recovering. If you haven't heard, she's recovering, and Pat had to run home. She was at the office and she's going to join us by phone as soon as she gets situated at home. But she had to go home to take care of something with her husband. With that, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Sean. James, you're muted.
Yes, I am.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Sean, seconded by James. Hollywood Squares voting. James, you're first. How do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you, Sean.
Aye.
Thank you, Colleen.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So next is to approve the minutes from, because Cindy's not here, Alicia, because she's got nothing else to do in her life, agreed to do minutes for us this evening.
Well, thank you.
So I want a quick round of applause for Alicia.
We should give Cindy many rounds of applause for doing it all the time.
Yeah,
I was going
absolutely.
to ask, but then I was afraid I might be volunteering if I asked. So,
Well, Colleen, when I'm sitting in the chair, you don't always get in trouble unless you know about it. It's coming beforehand. No, Alicia actually stepped up today during email. I had nothing to do with it. I'd like to approve the minutes from the January 19th meeting.
I make a motion that the minutes be approved as read.
Second.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Sean, for the second. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. James, you're still first up on my screen. How do you vote?
Vote aye.
Thank you, Sean.
Aye.
Thank you, Colleen.
aye.
And the chair votes aye, so they're accepted. And I don't think I send notes to everybody when I tell Cindy how wonderful it is that we get the meeting minutes so quick. She does a great job.
She
So-
does.
Yep. So next on our agenda is the Ayer Commons update. So while I'm going to turn this to Alicia if she's got any update at all on this to fill us in where we stand.
I'm actually Colleen, did you hear back from Noah at all on CPC? Any stuff on CPC? They were looking for a letter of commitment from the CPC. And I know Janet was going to bring it up at your meeting. Do you have anything to report on that?
Oh my gosh, my brain is like mush. Hold on, let me open the draft of the minutes from last week's meeting. To see, hold on.
Because I know I sat through most of that meeting, but I got there late. So it may have happened before I got there.
Yes, no, we did talk about it. She is working, Janet's going to work on a draft letter of commitment, and then she'll circulate it to the members. So we haven't seen the draft yet, but
Okay.
she is working on a draft. We do not have the grant agreements finalized, so it will say the commitment contingent upon the
Yeah,
signed grant.
and the details haven't been worked out on that, but they just need it for financing. And so she had mentioned that, and that you guys didn't have the grant agreements finalized, but all the banks really want to know is that the town meeting voted it contingent upon you guys doing
Right.
appropriate grant agreements.
Right. The money's there. It's been approved. Once
Yes,
the grant agreement, then we can release the funds. But yeah,
yes,
so she is working on that.
perfect. Thank you very much. And that was
Thank
pretty
you.
much what I had. They're working on their environmental requirements for DHCD. And they're working on their financing right now. So that's pretty much what I had
Thank-
on that.
Thank you. And I was over in that area today and there were chainsaws going off on the property. So I'm assuming they're working on cleaning up the property too, doing more work on cleaning up that property. It's don't know if anyone's been paying attention to it, but a lot of work's gotten done over there by the current owners. So that's been fantastic. Okay, moving on to the Ayer rental assistance discussion. And Alicia, you want to kick us off with this?
So it's been very interesting. We've had application requests personally of 12 applications. We've
Wow.
only received in so far 4 applications. I'm anticipating 2 more this week, possibly 3 this week. And really nicely, the Action Unlimited picked it up and put it in their notice. So I had somebody walk into my office yesterday saying that they had seen it there. And people are knowing about this. I'm mixed on, we've got some very poor people. We've got some people with no income. They're between jobs. And I would like to have us have an early meeting in March so that we can talk about this, or even late February when I've reviewed all applications and we've got, we've closed application deadline. And because we have that cap where we say, how are you going to make this happen?
Yeah.
We have 2 families with no income right now, both in apartments. Both should have jobs soon. One's doing a state nonprofit funded course, a 5-month course that will get him, and they hopefully will be placing him in an IT position someplace. Entry level IT
Mhm.
position someplace.
Is that
And
like,
he left his
Sorry.
work and he's got people helping him. So it's just interesting where the need is.
John, did you have a question?
is that like one of the courses through like mass rehab or something like that?
It's actually, you know what? I should have. It's actually funded by corporations like Apple and Amazon and all this, and it's a nonprofit, but it's a full-time course. They have to. It's 5 months. They can't work. He's gotten loans and things like that to get him there. But
Wow.
we're talking a family of 6. So
I know Sean, I know this because of during COVID, I was actually put in a position where I had to deal with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And one of the things that they offer you is you got to go in and participate on their job site.
Yeah.
You got to set yourself up. And they've done an amazing, things started popping up that I don't think the Commonwealth ever thought about doing before. And it's along the lines of getting people trained for transitional positions, because somebody being out of work for a long period of time is a challenge, and needs have changed. So
this person was driving Uber before that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no,
you.
that's quite all right. That's the gig economy is a hard way to do it. It is difficult. Well, so you had 12 apps requested, you got 4 in, you're expecting 3 more this week. When is your
Yes.
application period closing?
The 15th.
Okay. You requested a meeting either later this month or early next month. I
Yes.
can't think of a better thing to do right now than maybe see if we can't put that together. If people can put their calendar hats on, so we can move this forward. Hate to give you all homework right away, but I think
Well, guys, I'm always a little bit out there
Mhm.
when it comes to scheduling all these kinds of things. what I'm thinking about is I need to review all applications
Yep.
and I'm trying to think, do we vote on the people before I check with the landlords, or do we? I guess we kind of vote on the people before I check with the landlords. I can't remember what we did last time. Is that what we did? Okay, sorry. I
We
know I should.
voted, I think we voted, and you were still in, you didn't have everything worked out with the landlord.
Yeah.
So some of them we voted on sort
Okay.
of contingent upon the landlord.
Yeah.
So
I seem to
kinda
recall a conditional contingent vote for it. As I look at the calendar, the first Wednesday of the month, does any board that anyone's aware of have the first Wednesday locked in? CPC, correct, Colleen?
Yep.
Okay,
Now,
I'm willing to go
CPC,
off. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess, and then this may tie into our next discussion on the rental assistance program.
Mhm.
CPC meets at 7. So, depending on how much would be on the agenda, a 6 o'clock or a 6:15 meeting to end at 7 might be an option. However, if we're not finalizing anything on rental assistance and need to work that into an upcoming meeting, that would need to be before CPC.
So why don't we do this for a second? Let's talk about the CPC request. Because we may need to be at CPC for multiple, we may need to have some of us be at CPC that night.
Yeah.
So let's take a pause on finding a date. Let's talk about the CPC. The FY24 CPC request and see if we have to, because I'd hope that the trust can support you, Alicia, in getting a meeting as quickly as possible. I picked Wednesday because that Wednesday seems to work, but I can't keep track of who's got what night. And Tuesdays are either select or planning board. So
the second Wednesday might be okay because we said that we would be putting them, they would be getting assistance as of April 1st. I'm just trying to juggle everything and be able to get everything done.
Yep.
And what I didn't report on is that we have 2 applications from our current people, and I'm expecting everybody to reapply.
Mm-hmm.
One person, I did not ask her to put her application in because she didn't start till September of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm holding off, but I've gotten very positive reports from everybody that are part of the program.
It's great to hear.
Including that they're working things out for the next, they're making plans past working with us.
So it actually sounds like the second Wednesday of the month is the 8th. March starts on a Wednesday, so it's not that far into March. And that gives you an extra 4 or 5 working days to get there.
That's perfect.
So there we go. Why don't we stay with the 8th for us? And that way Colleen doesn't have to divide herself 4 times that night of the 1st, just once. Okay, great. And then I want to talk about the CPC request. We had left the conversation at the last meeting, and Colleen and Alicia and I had a quick back and forth about this earlier this week in the email. And Alicia, you want to do a quick overview?
I confuse things. You guys are a great board. You can handle so much that you took care of the CPC request last time. And I was remember 30,000. I wasn't remembering the 60,000. And I came back after the meeting and pulled up all the minutes and things like that. And the documents from the warrant. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we asked for the 60,000. We're not in trouble. We're fine. We don't even have to do it in the spring. If you don't want, we can do it in the fall. And that's where you guys go back to deciding what you want to do. I'm going to lay out a couple. I sometimes overthink things, so please don't mind me. The advantage of doing it in the fall would be that we'd have this program, the 10 people running for a good 6 months or close to 6 months. And we'd be able to say, is this enough? Do we need to do more? All that kind of stuff. But the advantage is, I don't know if there's a reason to do it in the spring for just breaking up request for the CPC, or do you want to do some long-term planning? I'm going to let you guys talk about that.
Thank you. And you're being way too hard on yourself, Alicia. You do an amazing job. You did such a good job before. We don't have to panic right now. Okay.
Thanks. We'll put it that way.
So, but thank you. Thoughts, James or Sean or Colleen? How do you want to start the conversation? Yeah, Colleen, please.
Well, I guess I'm a little all over the place as well. I'm wondering about Air Commons, when they are going to be coming back to CPC for more funding, and whether we don't want to, maybe we do, maybe it doesn't matter, but just thinking kind of strategically and what we bring to town meeting, if it's better to get this money squared away before they come with an even bigger ask towards affordable housing. On the other hand, if we don't need the money right away, and this gives us time to package a bigger ask in the fall, if we're not anticipating Air Commons, that would give us more time for long range planning. If we are going to Springtown meeting, we need to vote on an application tonight, because it has to go to CPC on March 1st, and then they have agreed to add a second meeting in March to hold a public hearing. So if we're not going through tonight, then we can let the committee know that, if we're going to wait until the fall, we can let the committee know. But if we're not meeting again before that March 1st meeting, we have to agree on a meeting. And I think we have to agree on the application. When we left our last meeting, I think maybe because of the confusion about the funding, I had asked them about 60 versus 90 to cover 2 years worth of the 10 families, but maybe it's better to wait and see how things shake out with the 10 that we have, if we have funding for those already, to give time for that planning. So I don't know. Again, no, my brain's pulled in two different directions.
I think we're all struggling with the same information. If I was thinking about it this way, and you're going to have to correct me if I'm incorrect. We got the original tranche of funding. We weren't able to find enough people to use it at the outset. People did come in over time. So we went to a staggered approach. We're now at a position now where we can handle, it is 10 families, correct? Or whatever the number of families is now, Alicia.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think we're going to have the demand for 10?
Absolutely. We've got 10 new applications for the 5 spots. Well, I actually only have 4 applications, but I'm anticipating someplace between 7 and 10.
I don't want to be in a position where we say no, but it sounds like we're going to have to be. This is an aside. Then there's the question that you raised, and I think it's a great point, Colleen, of NOAA coming back looking for more money for Ayer Commons. And I guess from the CPC standpoint, affordable money comes from the same pot, correct? Yeah. So do you think it would be, given the way it went before? So NOAA came and asked for the first bunch of money already. That's for phase 1. They would have to be fairly far along to say phase 2 needs money right now. Wouldn't you think?
Yes.
Alicia's shaking her head up and down.
Yes.
So I wonder if that's a little less of an important piece, Colleen, to be honest with you. I mean, I agree going to the same town meeting, and I'm going to rue these words. If I'm standing there and there are two CPC requests, one for this little teeny amount of money and one for this huge amount of money, and they end up competing with each other, that would be a horrible place to be. But excuse me. What are other people's thoughts on this, Sean or James?
What would, when you say that, what would be our alternative if we wouldn't? I don't know if I guess it's competing, but I'm not quite sure it is, because of 2 different purposes. it's only the way a person looks at it would make it competing. I don't see it as being an issue myself, but I don't know.
I appreciate that viewpoint, Sean.
I guess I'm not, I don't know, one way or the other. It's,
Yeah.
So we could, I'm sorry, Sean, I interrupted.
no, please do.
No,
I feel like Colleen right now. I'm a little bit all over.
So if you feel like that there might be something, if you want to break it up so that you can have two shots at it in 1 year, you can ask for 60,000 and just assume we're going to do the 10,000 and then go back and get more if you want to add another 5. You could ask for 90,000 and bank 30,000
For the
now,
additional families. Yeah.
or you could just ask for some general funding for the trust.
So, yeah.
And that's like one reason why I wonder about waiting is to figure out those needs. I don't know that we're prepared enough with long-term thinking to know what that money would be used for. So I would think it would be better to step back and think about a bigger, like if we're gonna think about general funding, that should wait till fall town meeting. And I don't think from CPC's perspective, Air Commons and the rental assistance would be competing. I wondered about on the floor of town meeting, if there's a huge ask and then more, but the money's there. And so CPC is going to fund what is already has already been collected in the bank. So maybe it wouldn't be an issue.
Well, I'm gonna. So here, I think the Affordable Housing Trust, in my mind, is moving forward in a very I don't want to use the word sober, but in a very directed format right now. We're finding our way. We're funding ourselves at the level we need. We started out with a bit of money. We didn't get a lot. We didn't get all the people we needed. Now we've been able to get more word out and stuff. I don't think it's going to be a difficult challenge to say in the fall, we talked about this in the spring, but we made the decision not to come to the town looking for money. We don't want to build a bank account. We want to support the people who need it. And we do have a real need here. And I think that's an easy conversation to have with our townsfolk. I think it shows us, I think it speaks to us being very realistic about what we're asking for and being very deliberate about it. Not trying to make it easy on us by putting money in the bank, which somebody may see. So that's the other way I see it. I think it's an easy conversation to have. We went from this number of families to this number of families. We now have that number of families. We didn't know it in the spring. And I'll be honest with you, I do budgeting. When they come to me and say, I need this, I ask them what they're going to do with it. They say, well, it would be nice to. And even that's a great way to budget for the year. But it's also, is it the most responsible way to ask for money? That's how I look at that. Any comments?
Well, it seemed like you do not have a plan when you ask that way. I mean, I would be hesitant to let you have anything. Ask it that way. You need to be direct and let the people giving out the money have kind of understanding what it's going to be used for, when it's going to be used. Clearly, you need to be able to do that.
Thank you, James. Pat, that you who joined us?
I did. Thank you. It took me 5 dialing.
Thanks for joining us. So
I don't know what that means.
I'm glad you're here. I don't know when you came in exactly. I saw the square pop up on the screen, but obviously we're discussing, let me just catch you up a little bit. We're talking about a request for CPC for funding. There was a little bit of confusion. Sorry?
I heard all the way from Keisha's comments on going before spring or fall through Colleen's and yours. So I have been in for probably 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay.
And I sort of agree with what you're saying in a way, Jeff, that maybe we ask for what we need now and then go back in the fall and say, hey, you know what? We have more of a demand. And we're not just trying to pad our bank account. We have people that actually need this funding. I don't know how the town would look at that. I look at it myself from the outside looking in as a taxpayer saying, well, you know what? They didn't ask us for, 70 or 90,000 in the spring. So yeah, they were conservative and now they need a little more. Am I wrong? I don't know. Maybe.
I think you just
I'm
read,
not
I think you, I think you summarized the conversation exactly the way it was, which is we have what we need right now to get us through this period for the 10 families. We're funded right now. The unknown was were we funded or not because of we started with 30, then went to 60 and how long we're funded. Alicia went back and took a look and we are funded for this round. So we don't need it this round. And I think if I was going to read the tea leaves, I think the tough conversation about asking for money in the fall, if it does compete with another ask, is probably a worthwhile way to go because we don't yet have our ducks in a row for a long-term plan. I'm summarizing. I'm seeing Colleen say yes. I think
I agree.
I'm seeing Sean say yes. I think James, guys, this is one of the hardest things I think we're going to have to do. And that is we're going to have a real need. But I think I think we need to be responsible to the taxpayers of this town by taking that need up as we can handle it with a plan and a sober, well thought out process. So,
Potentially more applicants by then, excuse me, Jeff, but potentially more applicants
yeah.
by fall.
Oh yeah. No,
More of a need. Go.
We'll have a better idea of what our need is. Really. Right. And it would be nice to be able to respond quickly. I'm sorry to say it would be wonderful if we could respond quickly. But I think the other side of the coin is we have a great opportunity to build some trust with this, with our community. And I think if we do it in a deliberate way, our community is going to be supportive of us for a long time going forward. That's just my read of it. I don't want, James, I don't want to fall into we're the bridge that costs $1 million more tomorrow. The capital planning is wrestling with that right now. The West Main Street Bridge.
Yes.
So, any other comments on this? Because I think we don't need a motion to not ask for funds, do we?
I don't think so.
No,
Okay.
I just have one question, Jeff.
Yeah.
Will you reach out to CPC as the chair to tell them we're not coming, or do you want me to reach out as the CPC? Because I'd like to let them know, given that they pushed the other public hearing.
I will follow up because I did join the meeting before, and this is when we thought we weren't funded. And my response to them is, we'll do it right now. And then I realized, no, we got to go have a meeting to do this. Sorry, I forgot. I will follow up with an email to Janet.
Okay.
In the next 24 hours, I may do it tonight when I'm done with the meeting, saying that after deliberation, we realized we will not be coming to the CPC for an additional funding for the Springtown meeting request. Okay. Thanks, Colleen. And of course, Colleen, you can rat me out to whoever you want. You can by all means share that with whoever you want on the CPC, but no, we'll definitely.
Janet can then decide how to approach the other public hearing to move it back to earlier in the month. I'll let her figure
exactly.
That
Yeah, no, I appreciate
it. Let them know because they had added that second meeting for us, but if we don't need it.
Yeah, and I'll definitely thank Janet profusely for being as flexible as CPC has been. I'm now remembering your meeting from last week. Very careful. There's very parts that I'm really remembering now. So, well, great. Okay. Next on our agenda is a continued discussion regarding long-term goals of Ayer Affordable Housing Trust and the Ayer Rental Assistance Program. And I wanted to prime the pump with some notes I wrote down last time. Actually, it's really only one note. Sean brought up mortgage assistance as a possible avenue for us. I think we discussed it briefly. I don't know if there's any more information along those lines, but I guess starting the conversation about long-term goals of the housing trust. Does anybody want to toss out any thoughts along this? Start the conversation, please. Alicia, yeah.
So this kind of goes into new business too. The town has, because of some generosity of a couple, two of our local banks, has some money for fuel assistance, for emergency fuel assistance. And the person that came, we've done our first emergency fuel assistance. It's $300 to $500 max per household if they qualify. Okay. And there's a lot of fuel assistance in the state, but this is kind of like a stopgap. And we had somebody come to us, call us out of the blue, own their own house, had lost their spouse, and ultimately will be selling the house because they can't afford to keep it, but way behind in their mortgage. Okay. And that's when I thought, oh, Sean was talking about this. And, you know, there's all sorts of things that can happen that change your landscape.
Mhm. Yeah,
And-
yeah, and Alicia, I'm gonna say, can we have a conversation offline about this? Because I just had to go through the ownership of, we're doing that right now with a death in our family. And it sometimes puts the brakes on things in a way that you don't understand until it gets explained to you. Doesn't go away, it's just things. So I may be able to give you some thoughts on how to take care of stuff along those lines. I'm not a professional, but I spent about an hour and a half today with my family and an attorney discussing what happens when there's a death and how the property is owned and stuff. In Massachusetts, there are laws that you can't circumvent.
Yep.
So it's a challenge. But you know, I thought long and hard about what are long-term goals for the Affordable Housing Trust. And I went back and I took a look at the way the trust is set up. In overarching terms, we're here to increase the number of affordable housing units in town and work with folks who need help to get them into housing and stable housing. Just that's how I see it. We're currently sitting in a place where we've got the possibility of between 60 and 102 units being built in the next 24 to 36 months. Some being built and some in the second phase going. We've kind of hit that. You mentioned fuel assistance. I was reading an article today. I don't know if anybody knows about what's going on with Mass Save and the push for heat pumps. Mini splits or heat pumps. They're electric. And all over Maine right now, they're giving away oil because people are choosing to figure out how to get an electric source of heat now in their homes because these things are so efficient. So I'm curious if, you know, does fuel assistance reach out to paying electric bills?
Yes.
Because in new construction now, there's no fossil fuel.
Well, as we saw, Noah's going to go with electric.
Yeah.
And yes, the two banks that they worked with, they wanted to do it on fuel assistance. And we requested that they consider it being housing emergency. So we can even use it for putting somebody up in a room on a very cold night. Because we're calling it housing emergency.
So a pipe burst, we could do temporary housing for them while it gets fixed.
Or
Type
we have a
stuff.
homeless person and we get a cold night like we did that last weekend, and the police call us and say, do you have it? We almost used it for a senior who's been homeless for 6 months, living on people's couches. So we're working with the Council on Aging on this too. There's just, so it's emergencies around housing. That's what we qualified it as. And what we ended up doing was setting it up to be overseen by the people that sit on the board are within the town. It's the deputy chief for the police, the deputy chief fire, Council on Aging, assistant town manager, and myself. And I might get off that if we end up with a social worker, because I probably will hand it to the social worker.
Yeah. That makes
but,
sense.
or I'll just be in a very background sort of thing way on this. We'll see how that is, but it's the interaction with people when they have housing related emergencies.
Mhm. Now,
And
so I don't know that this falls under the umbrella of the housing trust, but how do we say thank you to the banks?
oh, they came.
I'm sorry,
gave
but do
their
we write a
big
thank you
checks.
note?
And to tell
Huh?
you the truth, yes, and I got thank you notes ready to go out to them, but and we also have partners now in oil delivery. And we had oil companies who waived some fees and things like that for the first one, and they're local. We used a local.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And so we're just developing a partnership within the community. And what I would love to see, and we had talked about putting this in the trust, but we wanted to be, it needs to be something very quick. You need to be able to
Mhm.
do it quickly, get approval quickly, all that sort of thing. We need to raise some more money for it. And possibly expand it a little bit for emergency type, more expansive emergency. You can only get $300 to $500. We don't have that much money right now. The trust is doing a very good job. And I think the trust is, I think talking about what would mortgage assistance look like, we're using CPC funds,
Mhm.
but the trust could also start brainstorming, hey, where might there be other funds if we want to do we want to see another affordable project come in? Do we want to talk to the housing authority, because they are inundated with applications for senior housing, subsidized senior housing?
Hmm.
There's a lot of education we can do on all of this.
Does just thinking off the cuff, should we invite the housing authority to a meeting so we can hear what's going on?
Probably.
Okay. Regarding
I'll write
other
that
affordable
down.
housing, many of you know that I'm going to speak not out of school about the planning board, but we have an inclusionary zoning bylaw now. And it is very important to the members of the planning board that when a project comes to us, if we can, we do push for some level of affordable housing. It may be at the 80%, but it's affordable housing. It goes into affordable big A and it's always going to be there. And inclusionary zoning also is, we'll give you a unit if you put 5 units in. Make one affordable.
Oh,
We'll change we'll be more forgiving with our zoning bylaws if you will add in there's perks to it. And right now we're looking at Washington Street, which is the old fire station. That project started and stopped and started and stopped and starting up again with a brand new person coming in. Excuse me. And inclusionary zoning is part of the conversation. Don't know where it's going to go, because that's a contentious conversation. It's an adversarial position when you're saying to somebody, do it for us and we'll give you something, as opposed to a Noah who comes in and says, we want to do everything that way. So that's a non-cash way to build more housing. It's a slow process, but that's something else that's happening here in town. I'd really like to find out from the housing authority what they're hearing, because I think it might help us to understand. Go ahead.
silly me. The chair of the housing authority is the chair of the housing committee. We should have Janet give us a report on this.
I'll ask her in my thank you note later on tonight. Okay.
Well, I had just I overheard it because Ken Martin, who is the director of the housing authority, had come in and talked to Alan at a point where I wasn't there. And I heard him speaking to someone. I said, Alan, wait a minute. And he said, oh yeah, Ken says that they're overwhelmed. They need to build more housing. But that was it was just the side conversation I heard this week. And I'm like, this, and so I'm just repeating a little bit of, just general chatter that's happening in my office. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's Ken saying? And then all of a sudden, as we're talking about it, I'm like, wait a minute. Janet probably knows what Ken's saying, though we could ask Ken Martin to come and talk to us because he's the one who does the day-to-day.
I think it'd be helpful, to be honest with you, because, I honestly don't know what the next step, I hate to say it, guys, but I don't know what the priority would be for the housing trust. I don't know if anybody knows what their priorities are for the housing trust of this. I mean, we're doing what we're supposed to do, but as we look at a long range plan, where do we put the priority? And are we seeing the whole playing field and all the opportunities that may be out there? We may have to choose not even to look for them, but I'd like to find out, to be honest with you. To be honest with the trust about that. I know we're going to be doing the rental assistance program for a long time to come. I hope that we get it to the point where it doesn't keep growing. We can be I want to see housing stabilize. I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime, but the need for housing is huge and it's a huge burden on people. And so what we can do would be fantastic, would be great. Any other conversations, anything about this conversation that we want to have right now? I know it's a little disjointed and there's no direction, but it's also starting the process. Any other thoughts? Yeah, Colleen?
No, I just think I like the idea of having the housing authority come and talk to us and doing some information gathering over the short term so that we can really think strategically long term then about funding requests. And I think having Janet, as one of the people that comes, also as chair of CPC, she can help us think about what type of things CPC can fund out of, some of this long-term planning as well. So
yeah, I think that'd be helpful. I was just thinking, Alicia, I no longer have time to drop by your office and shoot the breeze. Go
I
ahead.
need you to come by and sign some minutes.
Tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
I've just said I have so much going on right now to get myself to the goal line on a project. If I drive 3 hours round trip, it takes me an extra day to get the project done. I'd rather sit at this desk tomorrow for 12 hours and get it done. So I can take a half hour tomorrow and get out there. And then my client's going to be very sad, but I got to get the project done. I got to close 2022's books. I got to get the taxes done. It's just got to get done. So I sound like an accountant now, tax accountant. So anyway, any other comments or input on long-term goals of the Housing Trust or the rental assistance program or anything else that might fall under the purview, including mortgage assistance, Sean, and other things? And please, if something pops up, send a quick email, jot down a note, send it. We'll capture it and put it into the next meeting as things come up.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
one thing that did come by my radar, but there's so much that comes past my desk. Home funds, I don't know anything about it, but it's a new program in the state. Sean, do you know anything about the home funds?
I have not heard that one yet.
Okay. So all of these things as we start making lists of things we want to research and see where we want to go, that's one of the things I need to pull up a little bit of, do a deep dive on that.
Okay.
Because I think that there's even towns that can have them available, or I don't know if it's going through mass sorry.
I'm sorry. I just Googled it. This is HUD.
Same.
Yeah, it is HUD.
I worked with HUD on their first projects on how to do this. I wrote a model for them a long time ago. Wow. I wonder if this is the same program. So anyway, we'll do some look at that. Yeah, and then I'm going to ask the trust another question, and that is, we're Ayer. We're very quickly going to have a resource. If it goes all the way through, they get the funding and all the T's get crossed and the I's get dotted and they break ground and they build us Ayer Commons, in many ways, we're going to become a regional housing solution because Ayer Commons is not just for Ayer. Does anybody on the trust want to have input from our neighboring communities on what's going on? And I'm thinking about Devon's Enterprise right now, because as Devon's Enterprise works on 2035, more airfield will be available, or before then. More airfield may be an appropriate place to try and get some housing in there. But it should be abated by then or earlier than that. So would anybody in the trust be interested in hearing what's going on with, our West Main Street Park Street neighbor?
I mean, the more you know, the better, right? It wouldn't
Yeah.
hurt.
James, you were going to say something?
I'm just gonna say, for so many years, Devon, Harvard, or whatever the case may be, did not want to have their hands in anything that was affordable, houses or
Mhm.
anything. So I don't know if they've been changing or what, because there's a lot of property around there that they could do something if they
Mhm.
elected to do it. So I don't know where they sit now, but it sounds as though, are they ready to get involved and try to make the moves or what?
Well, I'm going to talk off the cuff for a moment, but the vice chair of the board of selectmen in Harvard recently got Harvard to put some refugee housing in town. And they're very proud of doing that. That's change. Devon's Enterprise Commission is many years past where they were many years ago, and they're starting to think regionalization. I work with people over there. I'm the MRPC person for the town of Ayer through the planning board, and I hear what MRPC is doing. But I also know Devon's Enterprise is very interested in moving things forward, and we don't talk about the MBTA zoning. Are you all familiar with this? What's happened with MBTA zoning, transit zoning? We have to up the number of units possible in an area around our train station from 12 per acre to 15 per acre. And that goes hand in glove with creating smaller, more affordable, or adding more affordable units in. And that's been mandated by the Commonwealth. And we need to be up and ready in September. I'm very proud of the fact that the new zoning that we did, by happenstance, was really close to working. We don't have to do a lot of tweaking here in Ayer. Honestly, our communities that are attached to us, Groton being one and Harvard being one, they got a little bit more to do. But maybe, Alicia, why don't you and I, maybe I'll put some thinking into this, and because I have conversations with folks from Devon's a lot about non-motorized transportation, multimodal transportation, but they're doing things. And they're looking at, James, I know you know the history of this better than I, but what's the name of that square over there that no one wants to build?
Vicksburg.
Thank you, Vicksburg, Alicia. Yeah,
Yes.
It's bomb-proof. It's way too hard to tear down and rebuild.
Right.
Eventually, it will become cheaper than the bridge, James, and they'll want to do it. But no, it's a crazy building. It's logistics of it are keeping it from happening. But 8,000 jobs are going into Devon's right now, guys. About half of them are already there. So it's gonna pick up. So I'll see if I can't put some sort of talking points together about what's going on in the region and what the people around us are doing, because if we aren't thinking regionalization, we got a problem. We're going to miss opportunities. And they're being forced upon us by the communities around, by Massachusetts, among other things. So I just stepped off my soapbox. I don't know if you saw that. But no, it'd be great to get the Housing Trust in to talk about what their needs are. And I think if we took a few minutes and looked at what's going on around us and how we fit with that plan, that might be helpful too. And did I mention here the MRPCs? They're looking at cottage style developments. First time home buyer. Small footprint, 700 square feet, 800 square feet. 2-bedroom type stuff. Very close
Jeff,
to each other. Yeah,
Excuse me, doesn't our zoning prohibit that? I thought we had to have no less than 750 square feet. So I just had somebody want to build a small house and they were told they could not. Had
that
to
is
be more than 750, is that wrong?
so I'm gonna, without going into the details and not knowing what zoning district it was and not knowing what the setbacks were and not knowing the underlying zoning requirements, when you get to
Okay.
be small housing, you are also into Board of Health regulations. And we've got some pretty draconian Board of Health regulations because when we were a community that was servicing a military base next door, and I'm not saying anything bad about military bases, but people were shoehorning themselves into everywhere. And you end up in a position where you don't have septic services and fresh water services that can negatively impact the community. So a solution to that in the past was minimum square feet per house. Now,
Okay.
we recently did an accessible accessory
Dwelling.
unit. We updated the accessory unit bylaw. Depends on where you are, but there are ways of doing it. And I believe, I don't quote me exactly, Pat, because I got to look at the accessory unit bylaw, but I think we struggled with how big it needed to be. And I think we set it up with a minimum and a maximum based on the maximum percentage of square feet already on the property. There's a formula to it, if I believe. And I got to be honest with you, Pat, first time through, we may not have gotten it right. But yes, tiny homes are a challenge. And MRPC is working with tiny homes because, a $500,000 entry level house is crazy. I'm sorry, but you get in an airplane and you fly an hour west of here in an airplane, mind you. You're 500 miles farther out over the country, kind of south and west. A $500,000 house is a big house. That's the top of the pile. Around here,
Yeah.
That's my entry level. So cottage, and so MRPC is looking at that, looking at the zoning in the different communities around here and where it may or may not work. So that's one answer. Also, we have the OSRD, Pat, which is a way of doing certain things, and I can't design it for you without knowing where it is and the size. But if you look at our zoning bylaws, there are more things you can do. And our form-based code allows you to put units in certain areas by just telling us what you do. And we approved a 17-unit building on the corner of Park and Main years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, no parking, retail on the first floor. It's just not been built yet. So there are ways to get units in. But anyway,
Okay.
Pat, by all means, call me anytime outside the meeting, and I'll go through the bylaw with you and help you figure that one out. But it has to do
Okay.
with where it is and what it is, as much as
Okay,
our
I'll-
overarching bylaw. Yeah.
That's my phone number, so we can do that.
Yep. So so anyway, I'll follow up with what's going on in the area around affordable housing, because it does come up in the MRPC meeting. It does come up in meetings I sit in with Devon's Enterprise, and just general conversations, because the planning board is starting to look at we're at the 5-year, the 10-year plan right now, and we're starting to look prospectively towards how the community can have more housing. And I'll be honest with you guys, from a tax income standpoint, our most profitable properties are Washington Street, the 4 houses on an acre of a corner of Washington and a crossing street, versus a 1 house on an acre somewhere else in one of the developments. And if you take a look at what we've done in the last 3 or 4 years, we got almost 100 units on less than 4 miles of road, as opposed to a project that happened where the ski hill was. I'm not going to use the name. 127 units on almost 5.5 miles of road. Which road's going to get paid for, given our tax base? So the density is the key there too. Again, I'm off my soapbox. I I've got one thing under new and old. Oh, there's nobody for public comment, I'm assuming. Unless somebody wants to, put a mask on. We got nobody here for public comment. Under new and old business. Alicia, I sent you an email about this. I'm not going to put you on the spot about, I think I sent you an email. We're coming up on 2 years, guys. Our appointments are all 2
Oh,
years.
yes.
So let me tell you what I've done, because I was reading through the trust because I wanted to know what we could do. And it's like, oh yeah, we have 2-year appointments. We're currently shy one person. For good reason, we want to keep that seat warm. I spoke to the select board's office, Sean. I spoke to your town manager, and I sent him an email saying, I think we're right at about the 2-year mark, plus or minus. We can be reappointed forever, just on a 2-year rotating basis. So I would ask you all to think about, if you're here because you, like for me, I'm here from the planning board. I may ask another member of the planning board if they want to do it or not. I definitely want to keep doing it, but sharing the wealth is an important piece. So if somebody came to me and said, do you want to be reappointed to the Housing Trust? I'd say, I'd be pleased to be reappointed to the Housing Trust. But each one of you are on the trust through an appointment process. And I think we're at that 2-year mark where we have to get reappointed. I'm not going to put you on the spot right now. Fair enough. Y'all know what your calendars are. Y'all know what your responsibilities are. We all wear many, many hats. I go, Sean, you're on how many boards? 3, 2, 4. I know James is on a lot of important boards. Colleen, I see you more often than I see my family. and Pat also. We all do a lot. So think about that, because I'm going to kind of tie it to the upcoming election. That's what made me think about it also. So I've approached the select board and I've asked the town manager to be prepared to work with the select board to reappoint us, and that I would put it out to everybody on the board, on the trust, excuse me, to see if they want to get reappointed or not. And I'll put that out there. And by all means, no harm, no foul. Let me know by email if you don't mind in the next couple of days. So when I do speak with Robert again in a few weeks, I've got an answer. And if we do want to put it out, we're constantly beating the bushes for people to join committees and appointments for the town. And we can just add it to that too. And I don't want to see anybody go. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? So thank you. Anybody else got anything they want to add? Upcoming meeting, we're going to do the March 8th. Alicia,
Yes,
I'll put together a quick agenda.
thank you.
And if you don't mind just making sure with Carly, we can do it.
Yep.
I'm hoping that we can Zoom again next month. That's working for people.
Yes.
Yeah, it works for me. I hate to say it, but it really does work better, I think. We're eventually going to have to go back to in person. And I'll work with you, Alicia, to talk about Janet and Ken from the Housing Trust.
Sounds good.
And put together an agenda for them also. Pat, thank you so much for joining us. I hope everything's okay.
I'm sorry I was late. I have a 15-year-old shepherd and she's just under the weather. But thanks for your patience.
No, you guys, everyone at this table is a volunteer, and I, for one, can't say it enough. I appreciate all the volunteer work that happens in this town. A lot gets done, guys. Got a bunch of families with a roof over their head because of what we do. We maybe need to do more, but we got a lot. And again, Alicia, thank you so much for taking care of this. And with that, motion to adjourn.
I shall move.
Thank you,
Second.
Mr. Stephen. Thank you, Mr. Copeland. James, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. Sean?
Aye.
Colleen?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Chair says aye. It's unanimous. The meeting's over for the night. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, guys.